Welcome everyone to today's live class, and we're going to keep it short, simple and sweet, keeping it kind of spring and happy. And again, for somebody who's just starting off at home in flower arranging, everything here will be easily sourced and it's something that you can copy at home. But before we get started, who's watching, where are you watching in from, and obviously we need to know what's the weather like. Here at the school we're feeling very spritey and springy here today, nice and colourful, even though we have the black t-shirt on. For anyone that's watching and hasn't watched before, big welcome. My name is Janette from Case Flower School, and we have Deirdre behind the camera. But we do depend on everyone to first of all interact with us, but also click share. That's really important. So the container I'm using today, it's actually a metal basket, okay? And it's an Easter basket, and I have our little rabbit here, you know, the way, just to kind of keep the Easter theme going. So these are kind of containers that you will find around different wholesalers, but also walk around shops like Mr. Price and Deals, etc. For anyone that's watching and is looking to source the materials wholesale, but without having to go to the larger wholesalers, which need you to be VAT registered or again spend a certain amount, you will find the likes of O'Neill's Flowers up in Carlingford, Evergreen Flowers in RD and wholesaleflowers.ie in Sandyford. Them three wholesalers are quite happy to serve people who are not in the trade. You'll get them at the discounted prices, and most of them allow you to use our discount code, which is KAYSFS. So this is where I'm depending on my regulars, okay? First of all, I need you to tag and put the link up for O'Neill's Flowers. Tag in Evergreen Silk Plants, tag in wholesaleflowers.ie and put our discount code KAYSFS, it's short for Case Flower School. Okay, this was very reasonably priced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of floral foam, this is wet already, down into the end of it, you see, just to add a little bit of height. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get, I need a little bit more than this, but what I have is about 1/3 of a block of floral foam. So I'm just going to cut the two corners off on this side, just so that it slots in there for me, right? And can you see the way I'm missing a little bit, you see, over the opposite side? So I'm going to get another slot here. We'll just cut this off. It's going to be like a bit of a jigsaw. I'll cut these two corners off. Trim that down there. And we'll see, no, we need another little bit off. So I'm going to get a bigger knife. Cut down, there we go, and we'll try it again. Do you know what? There we go. Liposuction. Now, all in there, nice and tight. So what I'm now going to do then, get rid of these little pieces of floral foam, is I'm going to trim around the top. So you know me, it's just a habit I have. I always like to trim the floral foam, and to be honest, I think for this design it'll work out better if you do trim it. So sometimes I'd say, you can if you want to, and other times I'd say, yeah, definitely do. So for this design, I would say, yes, definitely do. Now that is wedged in tight, you know the way, it's like me and my jeans today. I tell you, they won't budge, there's no fear of them slipping down. So I really don't think there's any need to anchor tape that into the container, but you can if you want to, but I'm not going to bother. I think I'll be happy enough with it, it's nice and secure. Now what I'm going to do here today is just doing a kind of a grouped design using bits and bobs and leftovers and stuff that you happen to have. So I'll start off foliage wise. So this is foliage all the way from Deirdre's Garden up in Walkerstown, and it's euonymus, okay? Now a lot of people say, oh God, I can never remember the name of that foliage. Think of anonymous, you know when you want to date somebody and you go anonymous. So then put EU at the beginning of it. So if there's any garden centres watching there today, maybe put up your links or your Facebook page, contact details, phone numbers, email addresses, or even air codes, okay? And allow people where they can contact you if they want to buy a euonymus plant. Have you got them for sale? I know before when we were talking about the Silver Sussex, I know Evergreen Silk, not Evergreen, O'Neill's Flowers up in Carlingford, he got in the Silver Sussex plants and the eucalyptus plants, and he was posting them all over the country. Now I haven't been talking to Garode lately, but again, maybe if one of them is watching, they can let us know, have you any euonymus plants in stock? And if you haven't, are any chance of you getting a few of them in? So you can see there, I'm just trimming the ends, taking off any leaves there, and just making a little group section there of the euonymus foliage. So I'm just kind of like looking at it from this direction and just filling in a few more little pieces of it, okay? Now we'll put more of that variety in a few minutes. Next then, I'm moving on to the Black Pittosporum. I'm always calling this Tom Thumb, but this comes from Wicklow Foliage Farm. And by the way, O'Neill's Flowers in Carlingford actually sells Wicklow Foliage's farm foliage, so if you want to buy it from them you can, instead of having to go all the way to Wicklow. But again, why wouldn't you plant your own pittosporum bush or tree, you know, that way, and have it grown? But as I said, I always call this the Tom Thumb, which is supposed to be the miniature version. But when we buy this in, it's really, really tall. Now, I'm not a horticulturist. So again, if we have any horticulturists watching there, maybe they could give me a little bit of information, you know, that way, about it. What is the proper name then for the one that's really tall? Because it's obviously not called Tom Thumb, even though I call it Tom Thumb. So what I'm doing, as you can see there, was I just cutting up little sprigs of it, okay? And again, I'm just kind of like filling in little areas there. Like, there's no really flower arranging skills involved. That's why I'm talking away while I'm doing this. And as I said at the beginning, this class was kind of like keeping it really, really simple for the person that just loves flowers and wants to learn how to make a flower arrangement. So can you see like what I'm doing there so far? Now over this side, I'm going to do something similar with the black pittosporum kind of like facing me. And I'm working on both sides of the handle so that the handle is kind of incorporated into the arrangement, you know, that way that you'll still be able to hold it. It is a metal handle, so you'll be able to carry the arrangement by the handle. Always be careful with, say, wicker baskets. I'm always afraid that the handles wouldn't be strong enough, you know, that way. And again, you'll be carrying the arrangement and then maybe the arse might fall out of it. So always kind of be really, really careful. Now I'll turn this back around to you just to let you see what I've done there, okay? So then I'm going to join up the middle there now with the black pittosporum. And again, just kind of on top here, I'm just adding in 1 or 2 more pieces of this. So it's just using kind of like, you know, I mean, little bits and foliage, as I said to you, bits and bobs that's either lying around your garden or again that you're able to kind of like forage. So if you have 3 or 4 varieties, absolutely you can. You can use anything you want to. So now I'm going back onto the euonymus, and again I'm going to add in a few little sprigs of the euonymus. Probably would be handier for me if I cut it all up before I started. Just kind of speed you up. So we'll just cut this up into a few little sprigs there, and the same over here. I often find with these pieces, sometimes it can be easier to cut the main stem rather than kind of cutting off all the little side pieces. You know, sometimes the little side pieces might be too small and it might be easier to actually cut the main stem and you get better coverage out of it.
Now, okay. Laura wants to know, have we a module 1 starting in May? And
I haven't got the dates handy, but you know, have you got the handy?
Yeah, 34, actually it's the 31st of May is the module 1, so the end of May.
Right. End of May is when the next module 1 starts. So the module 1 is suitable for the beginner. Kind of suits the person who has been dabbling around, you know what I mean, doing a little bit of fun flower arranging, but now is at a stage where they want to kind of like make their arrangements more professional. In the florist trade, you know, that way, we kind of have what we slag or we call people the kitchen sink florists. Now, no offence meant, okay? But what it is, it's for people that do flower arranging at home, you know, the way, for pleasure or for fun, which is absolutely fine. Sure, I used to do that. That's how we all started. But you do find, like, when you're doing it for fun, you know, that way, there is kind of more a different style to your flower arrangement. So this would be more of a fun arrangement. And again, they don't have that panache, that real professionalism, commercialism to it. And then you often find, like, if you were in a shop, you probably wouldn't be using stuff out of your own garden and going down to somebody's garden and, you know, getting bits of foliage. So you have to learn how to work out how many stems you need. We call it the stem count. Work out the stem count for each design. Work out the cost price. Work out how many flowers you have to buy, where you're going to source it. What's the overall arrangement going to cost you? What are you going to sell it at? The profit margins that you have put on it, will it be enough of a margin to cover, like, say, all your overheads, like your rent, your rates, your insurance, your VAT bills, your tax bills, your wages bills, even more important. And that's what we cover here at Case Flower School. So as I said, it's for the person who wants to kind of go that next step, be more professional and start maybe selling their arrangements. Again, I'd often see somebody would set up a Facebook page, and they're not one of our students, okay? They'd set up a Facebook page and they'd be selling flower arrangements. And again, they're lovely, but they're very amateur, you know, that way. And again, as a professional, you would notice the amateur flower arrangements to the professional ones, as would the general public as well. So that's what I kind of find with our courses. It's really kind of teaching you a more professional level. So you can see there, no system, no pattern, do you know the way, just using different groups of foliage, and you can see like the complementing colours there, you know, the variegated euonymus, and then our black or brown pittosporum. It can look really, really well. well. So now flower wise, okay? Now again, I have a selection of flowers here in the school. Well, first of all, I have a little bit of pussy willow. Sure, it wouldn't be Easter time, Christmas, Easter time, springtime if you didn't add in some pussy willow. You can't go wrong with the chrysanthemums, and I always love these green ones. They're called Feeling Dark Green. I happen to have a couple of orchids in stock because we've been using orchids this week on our classes. I also have some yellow lilies. Again, you'll often find Lidl and Aldi are great for selling the lilies. I have some baby carnations. You can always get baby carnations in your supermarket, and again, great long-lasting flower. And then I have some mimosa, and I'm going to use that as my filler, you know, instead of using gyp. But to be honest, I'm not going to use everything, and I'm only going to use a small selection of everything that I have there. So again, you can substitute if anybody has any questions or they have ideas in their head there and they're wondering, would such a flower work? Put it in the comments. I respond back to everybody at night time. So sometimes we find here, because obviously we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we're on Facebook all at the same time. So sometimes it's impossible to watch all the questions coming in, you know, during the live. So what I'm going to do with the orchids is I'm going to cut the main stem. That I've left one or two of the orchid stems together, but on the main stem, and then I'm just going to insert them just down into the arrangement, not particularly in the centre, do you know that way, just down kind of there in among the foliage. And then I'm going to get the lilies, and what I kind of like love about the lilies is you get your bigger heads, but you also get all your smaller heads, and you can see the way I'm cutting them off individually. So over the opposite side of the basket, or our metal basket, I'm putting in our lily. So again, I'm just going to cut that stem short and stick it down into the flower foam. So that'll blow open and it'll drop down when the stems and the petals open. And in close with them, I'm going to add in a few little buds. Now this is one of the tighter buds there, and chances of that opening is probably nil to slim. What I find is that when you put in a lily that's ready to open, as that one is, and this one will open next, it just means when that lily is gone, there's something else there to replace it. So that's why I always like to put a bud near one of my lily flowers to take its place afterwards. The next then is, you can see that I'm just using just a couple of heads, is I'm now going to get my stem of chrysanthemums. I'm probably not even going to use the full stem. I'm not going to use the full stem. I'm going to cut off 3 or 4 heads for the moment, okay? So you can see there's absolutely loads left on it, okay? And again, I'm going to pick a completely different area altogether in the arrangement, and I'm going to put 2 or 3 little heads together. So slightly different heights to each other, and allowing a little bit of space in between each flower. Like, don't have them squashed together. It's something I always kind of find with chrysanthemums, okay? That when you're making funeral wreaths, you would always place your chrysanthemum heads really close together. So if you're doing a flower arrangement and you do the same thing, it makes your flower arrangement look like a funeral wreath. So be very careful of that. Next then is I'm going to get a couple of our baby carnation heads. Now that's a stem of baby cars. These little buds will not open. I'm not even going to say they probably won't open, they won't open. But the customer will always expect them to open, okay? And then I'm going to cut off a couple of the little individual heads. Now the little buds there, that's actually showing a bit of colour. That will open, I can guarantee that will open. But the thing is with customers, when you add in buds of carnations, okay, as well as them lasting for ages, right? But when I add in my little buds that I've just told you won't open, in 6 months' time, the customer is still here, maybe I'm exaggerating 6 months, you know what I mean? But they're still watering the arrangement, waiting on the flowers to open. And they're always going to say, God, that was great value, that arrangement that I got from Janette. You know that way, some of the flowers still haven't opened. That's because, love, they're never going to open. But that's the thing about commercialism, you know that way, is knowing all these little tricks. So again, you can see the way I've just added in a few little heads of the baby carnations. I'm leaving a little bit of space in between each one, you know that way, because I do know that they're going to blow open and they will get larger. So again, just to let you see how this is coming together. So now I just kind of feel over this side I could probably do with something else. I'm going to come over to this side, and the stem of chrysanthemums that I originally cut the heads off, I'm going to cut three or four more of these, okay? Cut these off. So now I've used a full stem of chrysanthemums, and I'm going to do something similar. Now it's not that the plan was that I was making it symmetrical, what I did on one side I did on the other. That isn't the plan, you know that way. But I do want to make this kind of as an all-round arrangement, so no matter what side that you're looking at, you'll be able to see some sort of flowers and some sort of design. And then what I'm going to do over this side here, I'm just going to add in a couple more carnations. So again, I'm just taking up a second stem of the baby cars. So if anybody is writing there what I've used, that's one of the slips, by the way. Actually, there's 2 on this one. Do you see them? if you go home and you just stick them down in the ground, now obviously if there's frost it's going to kill them, but they'll actually grow into baby carnations. And the chances of them turning out yellow is slim to zero, by the way. It's mad it is. I've often done it and they turn out a different colour altogether. So if you ever get the baby carnations this time of the year and you have them little shoots at the side of them, take them off, don't throw them in the bin, like I'm after doing, throwing them on the floor there. No, that was the magic bin, sorry, it wasn't the floor. You'll be able to actually grow them and you'll have your own baby carnations grown. It's a bit like, you know, when the bedding plants come in and you'll buy baby carnation bedding plants. Well, that's really kind of like what that is. It's just baby carnation bedding plants. So again, I've just done a little group of them there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the mimosa. Now I'm going to use the mimosa as an individual flower. So I'm going to have groups of the mimosa throughout the arrangement rather than using the mimosa like as a filler in between all of the flowers. That's my plan. Could change my mind. Now again, when I'm cutting off the mimosa, I'm kind of like leaving it in little sprigs, you know, that way, so that I have a nice thick stem, because there is a nice thick woody stem on it, which again will make it easier to get it into the floral foam. So again, in this little corner here, I'm going to add in a little bit of mimosa here. And again, it's like a kind of a filler, you know, that way, but I'm also using it as an individual flower, like, you know what I mean? So not so much as a cop-on spot, it's just here and there that I actually have it as a little flower in and out throughout my design. And I love mimosa this time of the year. Now it does dry out very fast, that's the only thing about it. And it does last longer as a flower in a vase of water than it does in floral foam. But again, there's that many flowers in this arrangement, I'll actually get away with it. Now some of the sprigs, as I cut it off, some of that little ferny foliage is still attached to it, and I'm leaving it on, you know, the way, because again, it's adding another little texture to see into my arrangement. And I just think low down here, I'm just going to add in another little bit of mimosa here. So we'll just turn that around there, we'll have a quick little look, and there is our little gift basket. Now that doesn't have to just do for Easter, and I know my table is real untidy. Oh, I forgot about my pussy willow. So again, with our pussy willow, we could have a group of it coming up to one side. So let me see, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Here we go. So again, I could add a little bit of height to it, you know what I mean, by allowing a couple of the stems to come up, just adding a little bit of exaggerated height. And you get that lovely curve on the first one I put in had probably a better curve than this one. So there we go. Hold on. Give me a chance now. We'll add a few more of these in. This one has a nicer curve on it. So I'm just going to add a few of these in, just to add a little bit of movement to the design. But by moving in front and behind, I'll add a little bit of a dimension to it as well, that it's all not just a straight line. Okay, that one was fairly straight. I would prefer it with a bit more of a curve on it. So here's one with a bit of a curve. There we go. We'll go down a little bit lower. And again, you could have this throughout the whole design if you want. But I'm just going to keep it all over to one side. So you know, that way, that's what I'm going to do. That's my plan of action anyway. So again, you can see the way I'm kind of like working in front, working behind, you know, that way, giving it plenty of movement. And it is a kind of a slightly modern version, I suppose, because I have done the grouping in the display. And I suppose now by adding our pussy willow, I'm just going to turn it around this way, just so I can add a few little shorter pieces just over this side here. You'll get the pussy willow, I think I mentioned already, in Wicklow Foliage Farm, but also I see that lady, if somebody might tag her, Graw Cuff Flowers. She's part of the Irish Flower Farmers, and she had some beautiful, her pussies were much bigger than my pussies, okay? So she had some beautiful pussy willow there a while ago. I think that looks lovely, just adds another dimension to the arrangement. Now I know some of you are watching and you'd more prefer to bring it up on the opposite side as well, and you can do that, and you could tie them together, or again you could cut it short and you could have it all over the place. At the end of the day, this is a fun class, you know what I mean? It's putting your own signature style on it, and it's doing what pleases you or that pleases your eye. I hope everybody enjoyed that class. Thanks a million for joining in. Thanks a million for commenting underneath. I will respond to everybody, and even if you're watching it on the replay. Again, I'm going to ask you if there is any chance that you could click share, especially if you're in a flower arranging class. I'd love you to share it into your club, you know, that way that you're a member of. Or again, if you have a friend who likes flowers herself, maybe you might tag them and just let them know about Kay's Flower School. If anybody has any questions at all or would like to talk to us about training to be a florist, drop us an email, info@kaysflowerschool.com.